It all started on an ordinary day, or at least it seemed that way. My life had always been calm and somewhat predictable. I had married Mark a few years ago, and together, we built a life that was as perfect as I could have hoped for. We had a small house in the suburbs, and I had 2 children whom I adored. Mark's family, especially his father, John, was an important part of our lives. John was the type of man who appeared warm and friendly to everyone round him. He was respected in the community, and no one ever thought there was anything unusual about him. But that was before I found out the truth. It all began with a strange encounter one evening. Mark and I had planned a quiet dinner, just the 2 of us, but he had to leave for a work meeting unexpectedly. I didn't mind. I spent the evening alone, cleaning up a little and going through some old family photos. As I was sifting through a box of memorabilia, something caught my eye, a letter, folded neatly under a pile of old receipts. I opened it carefully, wondering what it could be. The letter was written by a woman I had never heard of. Her name was Laura, and she was accusing John of something unimaginable. The letter revealed secrets about him that I couldn't believe. She spoke of years of abuse, emotional, physical, and psychological, that she had suffered at the hands of my father-in-law. But what was even more shocking was what followed. She mentioned that my husband Mark was involved too, not in the abuse itself, but as a witness to the torment his own mother had endured, yet he had never spoken a word of it. It was all there in black and white. My father-in-law's true nature was revealed, and I was stunned. I felt like the ground had been ripped from under me. How had I been so blind to this? How had no one said anything? I immediately felt the need to confront Mark, but I hesitated. How could I bring this up? Would he deny it? Would he defend his father? I had never suspected anything like this, but now I could feel the weight of the truth pressing down on me. I had to find out more. I needed answers. I spent the rest of the evening staring at that letter, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. How could I have missed the signs? How could I have been married to someone whose family had been hiding such darkness? I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. My father-in-law, the man I had respected and trusted, was not the person I thought he was. But what terrified me even more was the realization that my husband, Mark, had known about it. He had witnessed the abuse, the torment, and yet he had never spoken up. Was he complicit in this? Was he just as guilty? I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying the details of the letter, the woman's accusations, and the haunting image of my father-in-law's smiling face. It was as if the man I had known for years was a complete stranger. How could Mark keep such a secret from me? How could he live with himself knowing the truth? The next day, I decided I had to confront Mark. There was no avoiding it. I had to know the truth, even if it meant tearing apart everything I had built with him. I couldn't stand to live in the dark anymore. So, when he came home that evening, I was waiting for him, sitting on the couch with the letter in my hand. "Mark, we need to talk," I said, my voice shaky but firm. "I found something about your father. Something you should have told me." Mark's face immediately went pale, his expression shifting from confusion to fear. He knew what I had discovered, and he knew there was no way to hide from it now. "Liz, he started, but I cut him off, holding up the letter. "Don't lie to me, Mark. I know what's going on. I read the letter, and I know what your father did. What you let him do. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you protect your mother? And why didn't you protect me?" Mark's eyes filled with guilt, and for the first time, I saw him truly vulnerable. "I didn't want you to know," he said, his voice cracking. "I didn't want you to have to deal with the past. It was too painful, totally. I didn't know how to tell you, Liz. I didn't know how to explain that my father was capable of that kind of evil. But I had to live with it. I thought if I ignored it, if I buried it, it would go away. I could see the weight of his words crushing him, but my anger couldn't be stilled. You buried it, Mark. You buried the truth about your father abusing your mother, and you let me marry into this family without telling me. I loved you, and I trusted you. I thought I knew who you were, but now I feel like I've been living in a lie. Mark stood there, his hands shaking. I'm sorry, Liz. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted you to find out this way. But I didn't know how to protect you from him. I was just trying to protect you from the pain. But in protecting me, you kept me in the dark. You let me live with a lie. I shot back, my voice filled with frustration. How could you let me build a life with you, knowing that this dark secret was hiding in the shadows? How could you let me trust your family, knowing what your father was capable of? Mark took a step closer to me, his eyes filled with tears. I never wanted any of this. I never wanted you to suffer because of my family. I didn't want to lose you, Liz. I thought if I kept everything quiet, it would be easier. I thought if I kept it buried, it would protect you. I shook my head, my heart breaking. Protect me? You didn't protect me, Mark. You didn't protect anyone. And now I'm left trying to pick up the pieces of a broken family. I can't just forget what I know. I can't pretend everything is okay anymore. Mark's shoulders slumped as he let out a deep breath. What do you want me to say, Liz? I don't have an excuse. I was weak. I should have told you sooner. But I didn't know how. I don't know how to fix this. I looked at him, the love I had for him still burning deep inside. But so was the betrayal. I don't know what to do anymore. Mark, I don't know if I can forgive you for this, for keeping this secret from me, for putting me in a position where I have to choose between my family and my own peace of mind. There was a long silence between us, both of us struggling with the weight of the situation. The truth had come out, but the damage was done. Mark had failed to protect me, and now the real question was, could I ever trust him again? The next few days felt like a blur, a fog that I couldn't escape. Mark and I had tried to talk, but the conversations only seemed to deepen the chasm between us. Every word he said felt hollow, and every apology seemed insufficient. The truth about his father's actions hung like a dark cloud over our marriage, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something needed to be done. I knew that I had to make a decision, not just for myself, but for my children. How could I let my children grow up in a family where this kind of darkness had been kept hidden for so long? How could I raise them in a home where trust was broken, and where the truth had been buried for years? I had spent so much time trying to protect my family, trying to create a peaceful home for my children. But I realized that the peace I was searching for could never come if we didn't face the truth. We couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. The truth had to come out, and I had to find a way to bring justice to the victims of my father-in-law's abuse, including his wife, Mark's mother. I decided to confront Rachel. She had been silent for far too long. She knew the truth, and it was time for her to finally speak. If there was any chance of stopping the cycle of violence and abuse in our family, it had to start with confronting the past, and with Rachel, who had been the silent witness to so much pain. The day I went to her house, I didn't know what to expect. I had hoped that, after everything I had learned, she would be ready to stand up for what was right. But as I arrived at her doorstep, I felt a sense of trepidation. Would she help me, or would she continue to protect her son, even after everything that had come to light? Rachel opened the door slowly when I knocked, her face pale and weary. It seemed like she had aged years since I had last seen her. The weight of the family's secrets had clearly taken its toll on her. She invited me inside, but I could tell she wasn't ready for the conversation I had planned. I need your help, Rachel, I said, my voice trembling with emotion. I need you to help me bring the truth to light. I can't stand by and let this continue. Mark has to face what his father did. We need justice." Rachel's eyes filled with tears, and she sat down heavily on the couch. "I've been carrying this burden for so long, Liz. You have no idea what it's like to know what your own son did and not be able to protect the ones you love. I know it's been hard for you," I said gently, "but we can't keep hiding this. It's time for Mark to face what his father did, and it's time for him to stop protecting his father at the cost of his family." Rachel shook her head. "I tried, Liz. I tried to protect Mark from it all, but he never listened. He always thought if he ignored it, it would go away. And now we're all paying the price. I'm not going to let this continue," I said firmly. "I need you to help me expose the truth. We need to bring his actions into the light so that our family can heal." Rachel looked at me, a mixture of guilt and relief in her eyes. "I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can bring myself to expose everything. But for you, for your children, I will do what I can." I could see the pain in her eyes, the years of suffering and silence that had plagued her. She had been a victim too, just like the rest of us. She had witnessed the abuse, the brokenness, but she had been too afraid to speak out. But now, with me standing before her, asking for her help, she knew what had to be done. "Together, we can stop this," I said softly. "We can bring justice to this family, even if it means tearing it all down. We have to face the truth, no matter how painful it is." Rachel nodded slowly, and for the first time in years, I saw a glimmer of hope in her eyes. She had been living with the ghosts of the past for too long, but maybe, just maybe, we could free ourselves from the burden together. The next few weeks felt like a whirlwind. Rachel and I, bound by our shared pain, began to dig deeper into the secrets that had haunted our family for so long. We knew what we had to do, but it wasn't going to be easy. The truth was buried deep, and the consequences of exposing it would be far-reaching. But no matter how difficult it was, we knew we couldn't keep living in the shadows of the past. We started by going through old family records, photographs, and letters. Rachel had kept everything hidden away in a dusty box in the attic, a collection of memories that no one had ever dared touch. She explained how, for years, she had kept quiet, afraid of what would happen if the truth came to light. Mark, her son, had always been her priority, and she had done everything in her power to protect him, even if it meant hiding the truth. As Rachel and I sifted through the papers, we found more and more disturbing evidence of the abuse Mark's father had inflicted on his wife, Rachel's mother, and other family members. Letters filled with despair, photographs showing signs of violence, and legal documents that had been hidden for years. It was all there, in black and white. The truth was undeniable. The more we uncovered, the more I began to understand the depth of the damage that had been done. This wasn't just about Mark's father being an abuser. It was about a family that had been manipulated and destroyed by years of fear, silence, and guilt. Rachel had lived with the knowledge of what her husband had done, but she had been too scared to speak out. And now, she was trapped in a cycle of shame and regret. "We have to do something," I said, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. "We can't let this go on any longer. Mark needs to know the full truth. We have to confront him, no matter what it takes." Rachel nodded, her face a mixture of fear and resolve. "I don't know if he'll believe it. I don't know if he'll accept what we have to say. But I can't keep hiding this. Not anymore." Together, we gathered everything we had found, the letters, the photographs, the legal documents, and set out to confront Mark. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was the only way forward. We couldn't continue to live in this web of lies. When Mark came home that evening, I could tell something was off. His usual calm demeanor was replaced with nervous energy. He knew something was coming, and he didn't want to face it. But I wasn't going to let him avoid the truth any longer. "Mark," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "We need to talk." Mark looked at me, his face pale, and then at Rachel, who was standing beside me. He knew this wasn't going to be a simple conversation. "What is it?" he asked, his voice tight. "What are you two planning?" I took a deep breath, gathering all the strength I had left. "We're planning to bring the truth to light. You need to know what your father did. You need to know the man you've been protecting for years." Mark's face twisted in confusion and anger. "What are you talking about? What is this? What do you think you're doing?" "We're going to show you everything," I said, stepping forward. "The letters, the photographs, the documents, everything. Your father's abuse, his lies, and the way he destroyed this family. We're not going to keep this a secret anymore." Mark recoiled as if he had been slapped. "No, this isn't possible. You don't know what you're talking about. My father wouldn't do that. He's not a monster." I felt a lump form in my throat. "He is, Mark. He's been hurting people for years. Your mother, Rachel, me. We've all been victims of his lies, his cruelty. You've been living in a fantasy, protecting him for so long. But it's time to face the truth." Tears welled up in Mark's eyes, and for the first time, I saw him truly break. The man I had loved and built a life with was crumbling before me. The truth was too much for him to bear, but it was the only way for us to heal. "I didn't know," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I didn't know how deep it went. I thought I could protect you. I thought I could keep it all buried." I stepped closer, my heart breaking for him. "You didn't protect anyone, Mark. You buried the truth. And now we have to face it. We can't keep pretending anymore. This family has been destroyed by fear and lies, and it's time to end it." The silence in the room was deafening as Mark absorbed the weight of what I had said. His face was a mix of disbelief, guilt, and pain. He looked at Rachel, his eyes searching for some sort of reassurance, but she didn't give him any. She had already made up her mind. The truth had been hidden for far too long. "We have to take action, Mark," I said softly. "We have to report your father. We have to get justice for all the people he's hurt." Mark stood there, motionless, for what felt like an eternity. And then, slowly, he nodded. "You're right," he said, his voice hoarse. "I don't know how we'll fix this, but we'll do it. We'll go to the authorities. We'll bring him to justice." It wasn't going to be easy. The path ahead would be long and filled with challenges. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were taking the right steps. The truth had come to light, and now we could begin to heal. Together, we would fight for justice. Together, we would break the chains of the past and build a future free from the darkness that had consumed us for so long.